Welcome to Mythically Alluding. Today we're focusing on the Greek scene. No. Not the Greece scene, the Greek scene. To start off, there are 12 major gods of the Greek Pantheon. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Hermes, and Dionysus. All of the gods were related to each other. Zeus was the big man. Armed with his weapon of choice, a lightning bolt, he was known as the father of gods and men, the king of Mount Olympus, and the father of many demigods and monsters. In most traditions, Zeus is married to Hera, goddess of marriage, and is said to have fathered Ares, god of war, Hebe, goddess of eternal youth, and Hephaestus, god of fire, metalworking, stonemasonry, forges, the arts of sculpture, and blacksmiths. Really, Hephaestus, you could have made that name smaller. Now, Zeus had a lot more kids than this, but the majority of them were not with Hera. He was infamous for his tomcatting, and this resulted in many godly and heroic offsprings. How's that for irony? Zeus was the last child of the Titans Kronos and Rhea, and was the only one who avoided being swallowed by his own father, who had been told that one of his children would overthrow him. Tip for all you dads out there: if 3 old blind ladies armed with yarn and a pair of rusty scissors tells you that your kid is going to possibly kill you, eating your offspring is really not the best way to go. While Rhea was trying to figure out how to get her husband to puke up the kids, who were still alive in there, don't ask me how, Zeus was being raised by a goat and 3 dryads. For those who don't know, dryads is a fancy term for forest spirits. Now, sometime in his teenage years, he snuck into his dad's palace and tricked him into drinking a mixture of wine and mustard, forcing him to disgorge his siblings. Without all the small fancy details, there was a battle and the gods were victorious. There are different versions of how Zeus came to power, but this is my personal favorite. Now, the Greeks described Zeus as wise, fair, just, merciful, and prudent. I think the Greeks had drank way too much. Sure, Zeus had his good days, but he also had his bad days. He could be destructive, vengeful, and downright mean. And let's not even get into the fact that Zeus married his own sister. That opens a whole new vat of shenanigans. Poseidon was the god of the sea, earthquakes, storms, and horses. He was known to be one of the most bad-tempered, moody, and greedy of the Olympian gods. Debatable in my opinion, but hey, at least we know who to blame for Hurricane Katrina. After the whole mess of being swallowed by his dad in the big battle, Poseidon and his brothers Zeus and Hades drew straws and picked what part of the earth they wanted to control. Poseidon got the ocean, which then he added a few extra things that probably weren't part of the deal. Greek sailors often looked to him for safe travels across the sea. It stands to reason that, because of his influence on the water, he was also seen as the god of navigations. He was also seen as the fertility god. Personally, I think they should have given that title to Zeus. Poseidon wielded a trident, which basically looked like a spear with 3 tips instead of 1. When he struck it against the ground, it would cause an earthquake. This earned him the nickname of Earthshaker. Poseidon was married to Amphitrite, a Nereid. Together, they produced a half-human, half-fish child named Triton. Unfortunately, Poseidon wasn't exactly a loyal husband. He and Medusa conceived the first Pegasus and a giant named Cassava. He actually had a child with his sister Demeter. Actually, scratch child, they had a horse named Aaron, who was supposedly the fastest horse ever. I guess he really is the god of fertility. Hades was the god of the underworld, and the name eventually came to describe the home of the dead as well. While his brothers got the awesome skies and the cool seas, Hades literally got the butt of the universe. Hades got what we know as hell in modern times. In Greek times, it was known as the underworld, home to good spirits and some pretty bad spirits. There are different sections of the underworld dedicated to the spirits. Think of it like a plane. There's first class, business class, and economy class. Sometimes you'll luck out and get the plush seats and the choice snacks. Other times you're flying economy next to the screaming baby on one side, and the flatulent guy who provided his own air for the flight on the other side. Hades was depicted as a stern and unyielding god, unmoved by prayer and sacrifice. No matter how many goats you killed for him, Hades kept on killing. He was also known as the god of wealth, or the rich one, because he possessed the precious metals under the earth. He also possessed an invisibility cap. That'd be pretty handy when you just don't feel like socializing. Hades was married to Persephone. Now there's stories about how he kidnapped her and went through the whole marry me or else ordeal. Other tales say that she wandered into the underworld, decided she liked it, and figured she'd stay there. I'll let you decide which is which. Fun fact for all you listeners, Hades had a pet dog called Cerberus that guarded the underworld gates. Cerberus actually comes from the root Indo-European word Kerberos. Kerberos means spotted. Hades essentially named his pet dog Spot. Those are the big three. The rest of the 12 don't require as much in-depth, so I'll just give you a neat fact, along with their names and birth parents. Hera is known as the Queen of Gods, and married to her brother Zeus. Her parents were Rhea and Kronos. I think they should have said Queen of Gods and the most vengeful of them all. Pretty much all of Zeus's secret lovers mysteriously died. I wonder why. Fun fact, Hera is also described as cow-face. Apparently, the Greeks viewed cows as a thing of beauty. Demeter was the goddess of corn, grain, and harvest. She was the daughter of Kronos and Rhea. Fun fact, her daughter was Persephone, and when Persephone was kidnapped, she was so upset that all the crops in Greece suddenly died. She eventually got her daughter back, but for only half the year, thus creating winter. Athena was the goddess of wisdom and war. Her parent was Zeus. There was no mom in the picture. One day, Zeus had a horrible headache. So, being the wise gods they were, they cracked his skull open to relieve the pressure. With a hammer. Say goodbye to the sterile ways. Then suddenly popped out Athena, dressed in armor and carrying a spear, proclaiming who she was. It's no surprise she became Zeus's favorite. Fun fact, all of her children were brainchilds. They literally sprouted from her brain. Makes you wonder though, did she have to crack her skull open every time she felt an incoming child, or did they just roll out of her ear? Apollo was the god of the sun, light, music, and poetry. He was the son of Zeus and the Titan Leto. His twin was Artemis. Now he didn't really have a giant important weapon, but he did have a golden harp. I guess it works just as well to hit someone in the head with a harp as it does with a hammer. Fun fact, Apollo had a golden chariot that was tied to the sun. He was in charge of flying around the earth 24/7, bringing sunlight so crops could grow and people could actually see. His sister Artemis was in charge of pulling the moon and bringing the night. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt, forests and hills, the moon, and archery. She was a daughter of Zeus and the Titan Leto. Her twin was Apollo. Her giant and important weapon was a bow. Fun fact, her sacred animal was the bear, which makes sense because she was also referred to as the mistress of wild animals. Ares was the god of war. I bet there was some fighting over the title, as Athena was also known as the goddess of war. Apparently Ares represents the violence and untamed aspect of war, while Athena represents the strategy and generalship. Ares was the son of Zeus and Hera. Fun fact, Ares was described as Aphrodite's lover, even though she was already married to Hephaestus. So much for loyalty. Aphrodite was the Greek goddess of love, beauty, and eternal youth. To be honest, that sounds like a makeup ad. According to legends, Aphrodite doesn't have any real parents if we're being technical. She was born from the sea foam of the waters of Paphos. She supposedly sprouted from the water when the Titan Kronos killed his father Uranus, and threw his genitals into the sea. Fun fact, her son was Cupid. No, not the babies in diapers with wings you see on Valentine's cards. I'm talking about the big, bad macho man who shot heart-shaped arrows at people for fun. Now that I think about it, the only difference is that one wears diapers and the other was apparently a hunk. Hephaestus was the Greek god of fire and metalwork. You'll notice I shortened down the name. His parents were Zeus and Hera. Fun fact about this man, he was born deformed and cast out of Olympus by his own mom. Way to go, Hera. He wasn't even a day old, and you just threw your child down a mountain. Somebody call child services. Hermes was the Greek god of trade, eloquence, and the messenger of the gods. I guess this was the gods' way of texting, although I like our version a lot better. Hermes was the son of Zeus and Maia. Maia was immortal, and one that probably died due to Hera's wrath. Fun fact, Hermes was also known as the god of literature. I bet you anything he would be an amazing English teacher. Dionysus was the god of wine and grape harvest. Essentially, he was the drunkest of the 12. He was the son of Zeus and the mortal Semele. Fun fact, the Greeks claimed that he was born of fire and nursed by rain. His birth corresponds to the development of grapes. Heat ripens a fruit, but water keeps it alive. And now for the alluding part. Here are some companies that you've probably heard